Hey everyone, welcome back. Taylor here. Now today's topic is critically important, especially these days, and it's all about getting help for your mental health. Finding the right support for you, either whether it's a therapist or a coach or some kind of consultant, or even just getting your friend and choosing which friend is the best person to ask for emotional help. And the biggest tragedy, the reason why this is an important topic is because the biggest tragedy that I have seen as working in the mental health field is when people really need therapeutic help and they build up the courage to finally ask for help, and then it's not the right fit, or the therapist just doesn't really help, or it's just the whole situation makes things even worse than they were before. And the worst part is that then the person is so demoralized. The person feels so downtrodden and crestfallen about it that they don't even try again. They don't even look for another therapist because it took way too much work just to find that first one, and it didn't go well. So this is and it's a constant problem. This is an ever-present issue because so many people are still so uncomfortable with getting out of their comfort zone. Makes sense, that sentence should be pretty obvious, and asking for help. But asking for help to be really vulnerable and get the type of therapeutic help they need. And sadly, so many people will then never ask for help. They'll completely isolate, they'll completely seclude themselves, their mental issues will never get better, their emotional health will never improve, and then everything will go downhill. Their work, their relationships, their self-esteem, their self-worth, everything. And right now, everybody still feels so cooped up and isolated already. And so this is so critically important right now because of quarantine, because of the pandemic, and because everything is just unfamiliar. Everybody needs some kind of emotional help, but is feeling really locked down and feeling really isolated. So today what we're gonna do is use the metaphor of tailoring a suit or tailoring a dress, but I wear suits, and I have to get them tailored, so I'll talk about tailoring a suit. But the reason why is because a lot of times when someone is not used to needing to wear a suit, like for instance a job interview or something right out of college, and a guy doesn't have a suit, oftentimes they will just go to the store, pick the thing off the rack, the thing that they think fits pretty well or is around their size. They'll just grab it off the rack, buy it, never wear it, never even try it on until the job interview, for instance. And the problem with that is that you never feel really confident. It sort of fits, it sort of looks good, but it's just you never feel really, really good in that suit. And for a lot of people in looking for therapy or looking for some kind of mental health support, it's the same kind of thing. They will just choose the first therapist that they see, or the first therapist that they hear about when they Google therapists in my area. But they won't do any kind of vetting of it. They won't see if it's a comfortable fit. They'll just dive into a first session, try it out, and then just something doesn't feel right. Just something doesn't feel safe. Something doesn't feel productive and confident and successful with it. And you just kind of at the best, you kind of leave with a bad taste in your mouth and then never come back to the therapist and just kind of brush off the process. Just like when you buy a suit off the rack and don't get it tailored for something really important, like a job interview or whatever it is, you're just gonna kind of feel meh, whatever. You're not really even gonna feel engaged in the thing that you have to wear the suit for. And the thing itself is the most important thing. It's not fully about the suit. And so, to use this metaphor, the best solution for this, to get the mental health support that you need, is to take the time to get the suit tailored in a way that feels the best for you. Now, like I said, it takes time. So what this means for the metaphor, let's talk about the suit for a second. This means finding a good tailor. It means going within enough time to actually get it tailored. It takes, you have to actually put it on, you have to tell the tailor what you want. Follow me? You have to tell the tailor what you actually want fixed or worked on, and you want to know, and you want to need to be able to tell them what it looks like or what it can look like when it's done, and how you want to feel in that suit when it's done. so that the tailor knows everything about you and everything that you want and all of your goals out of the experience, and you get to very clearly clarify what your needs are for the suit. This is the exact same thing with therapy. The problem is a lot of people think still that it's some kind of one-way street, that like once you find the therapist, boom, perfect, it's gonna be fine. All I have to do is just go sit down, talk about my issues. Hopefully the therapist will be able to do something that'll make me feel fixed, make me feel better, and it'll all be fine. But it's a two-way relationship. It's the same thing with getting your suit tailored. You need to have a relationship with the tailor to actually know that that tailor is going to do a good job in the future. And so it's the same with a therapist. So going into looking for a therapist or looking for a coach or looking for a type of mental health support that you need, there are several things you need to keep in mind on both your side and on the therapist side. So let's start with yours first. Most important thing is safety, is to feel safe. And that's both physical safety as well as psychological safety. And so the first thing to figure out is, what is the space where you would be meeting with the therapist? Is their office a certain place? I mean, like a lot of therapists meet in hospitals. Are you comfortable going to a hospital and meeting in some random office? If so, great. These days, everything might be over Zoom. So do you have a place in your home or in your building, or do you have an office that you feel comfortable speaking to a therapist over Zoom? So that's just like the physical safety, that you feel like, all right, this is a good enough spot. I can hang out here to have my therapy calls and be vulnerable and uncomfortable. But then the next thing is the psychological safety of it. And it kind of goes along with physical safety, because like, is the space conducive for you to feel free and comfortable and have the mental space and clarity and time to open up, to feel comfortable, to not be distracted by other things? Like, is your home, for instance, really loud? Do you have kids running around? So do you need to find another space that you won't have to be distracted by the kids running around or the dog trying to get your attention during your therapy call? Same thing if people try to have therapy calls virtually, like in coffee shops. Really bad idea, because there's so much happening around you and you never know what you're going to share, you never know what you're going to feel, and there's going to be a lot of people around that can make that really unsafe psychologically for you. So that's the first piece. Just think about the safety. Think about what would make you actually feel comfortable and safe talking to a therapist or a coach. Okay, number 2 is, what do you actually want to share with your therapist? What do you actually want to work on? And I'm gonna warn you, it's okay if you don't know. It's okay. It's okay if you don't know like really specifically what you want to work on. So many people come to me and they think that they want to work on X, Y, and Z, and then I talk to them and really they want to work on A, B, C over here. But they had to have some kind of idea of what they thought they wanted to work on. So for you, keep it general if you want to. Like if you're going through a lot of stress, just focus on stress. If you're feeling really depressed and down and kind of like sad about certain things, then just focus on that. The therapist, if they're good, will help you actually process and figure out what you want to work on more specifically. But make sure to go in with some kind of idea of the overall topic and emotional state or mental state that you want to be talking about. Furthermore, what kind of dynamic do you want to have with a therapist? So this is number 3. There are like 3 for you, 3 on your side. This is more like do you just want to be sharing the whole time? Or do you want them to talk back in a certain kind of way? This bleeds into the therapist's side of things, but more like the question for you to think about is like, what kind of interaction do you want with a therapist or a coach? Do you want it to just be you venting in a very old-fashioned kind of therapy way? Or do you want to be able to have an interaction, have a dialogue, ask the therapist questions, have them give you feedback and make connections for you in some kind of way? So these are 3 things to really keep in mind for you on your side. This should be pretty easy to figure out, answer these 3 questions about safety, about overall topic that you need help with, that you want to ask for help with, and what kind of interaction and dialogue or dynamic do you want with the therapist, okay? Now, on the side of the therapist, most importantly, what kind of personality do you want your therapist to have, or your coach, or whoever it is? What kind of personality do you want to have bounce things back and forth with you? And this is critically important because this is also what kind of personality do you want to challenge you mentally, psychologically, and emotionally? Because, and this is the part where like you have to kind of commit to the work because you're saying that you want somebody to challenge you, but you get to decide what kind of personality is best to give you kind of feedback and give you those challenges and push you out of your comfort zone even further. For instance, the therapist I've worked with for many, many years, she is not intense and aggressive. If I was working with somebody who was like really intense, really aggressive, almost demanding of their like suggestions and connections, and their energy was really intense, I wouldn't be able to do it. It would be way too much for me. I would get overwhelmed by the energy. I would not be able to actually hear what they're saying. But the therapist I've worked with in the past is very, very calm and composed, and then very direct and clear when she's making some kind of point. And it's great because it just like cuts out all the noise. It's just like cuts right to the point, and it's challenging for me. But it's delivered in such a way that it's a challenge that I'm welcoming, that I accept, and that I know is her personality, and that's what I want. Another thing to be thinking about is long term. What do you want to know about the therapist? And the therapist can't share very much, but just in terms of like their psychological and therapeutic orientation, like what they're good at, their expertise. What do you need to know ahead of time to feel like you can trust or connect with that therapist better for your work? So what are, like, write out a list of questions that you might want to ask them in like an introductory kind of consultation, so that you know, oh, they specialize in depression. So that if you're showing up with like stress related issues, maybe you'd want to know that they specialize in depression and they might not be the best fit. Furthermore, you could ask about how long they typically work with patients. How long is the relationship? Is it something to expect for years and years and years, or is it something a lot shorter? And that's good conversation starter for you and your therapist, just to get to know what you need to know about the personalities in order to have a productive therapeutic conversation. Okay, so I've covered a lot here, but overall, all of these kinds of questions are all about how can you feel confident, safe, and productive going into asking for help from a therapist or a coach or whomever. So use these questions both to get your own mind right about the help that you're asking for, but also the questions that you need to ask to make sure that the therapist or the coach is someone that's going to be helpful for you to work with in the future. So I hope this is helpful. This is one of the most critical topics, especially these days, and it really hasn't changed much over the years. Like, there's always been people who have tried so hard to find a therapist that works, and they're so far out of their comfort zone to just ask for help, and then it doesn't work out, and they never get the help that they need. And this is what I absolutely hate, and this is what I'm fighting for in the mental health industry, making sure that people get the help and the emotional support that they need. So if you know somebody who's struggling to find a therapist, or you know somebody, or even yourself, who just needs to talk things out with someone and ask questions about clarifying how to find the right therapist, please comment below or DM me privately. I'll put all of my handles and everything in my website and all my contact information down below. So please email me. Please send me a message. Please let me know if somebody needs help figuring this out or finding the right therapist for them. So I don't want anybody to feel alone. I don't want anybody to feel uncared for. Please take care of yourself, be kind to yourself, and I'll talk to you again soon.